There's an old saying that maybe you've heard before that goes, if you stand for nothing, then you'll fall for anything. And as someone like me who has not really been following politics his whole life, but has just started within the last few years following it more closely as it's become more relevant in I think everyone's lives, I think it's important to hold that mindset for most topics that come up in politics. And there is nothing more emblematic of this, I think, than the recent No Kings protest. I think it's emblematic of this saying because the very nature of what they're protesting is something that they're actually inadvertently condoning by not holding their own side accountable to this same standard. As you can look at people within government, such as Nancy Pelosi, who have been pretty much confirmed to be insider trading and have held a term in government longer than most kings throughout history. And when you can see that this is right in front of you and within your own side, but you're also advocating for no kings, can you really say that you believe in this, or is this just some kind of performance or some kind of double standard because you don't like the current president? My answer is the latter. And as frustrating as this might be, which I completely understand, I think this is an ongoing theme within politics in general, as it's not only the general public that is following in this trend, as again, looking at the protest, you can see that this is mainly comprised of the general public, but it's not only these people who are following through on this, but it is also our elected officials and people within government, which is the unfortunate part, since as leaders, I feel that they should be held to a higher standard and should set an example. In a perfect world, that would be the case. But if you look at the stories involving Marjorie Taylor Greene, Rand Paul, John Fetterman, these were all topics where people within our own government and even mainstream media and social media influencers have exposed their bias by criticizing these people who are going against the mainstream narrative on their respective side. You had Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was critical of Trump and his America First rhetoric, but her main thing was criticizing Trump's approach to Israel and his approach with his economic policy, which she felt has hurt people here within the United States.
I mean, let's take, for example, this $40 billion bailout for Argentina. That's probably one of the grossest things I've ever seen. And I have no idea who is telling our great president, our America First president, that this is a good idea. Because it's honestly, it's a punch in the gut to all of our American cattle ranchers, and they are furious, and rightfully so. And at the same time, I can't think of another country that's further away from the United States of America than Argentina.
And because of this, she is being labeled as some kind of traitor or a double agent, unironically, which is crazy to me, as I think anyone logically can admit that no one is perfect. Least of all the president of the United States. People are always going to have a reason to disagree and criticize any strategy. I think that's valid. But what I don't agree with is the nature of them not engaging with her points and the concerns that she brought up, again, within media and online. As I think, if anything, the burden falls on them to convince everyone else that she's wrong or to bring up counterpoints to refute her original premise. But that's not what you see online. And as for me, who is someone who is trying to figure out what I think is right or wrong, or to get more informed on these topics, that is where it leads to a whole lot of clutter and noise when you're trying to filter out these opinions, because it doesn't involve any factual retort or discredit of her points. It becomes those attacks on her character. And Rand Paul went through the same thing by, again, criticizing the administration and their approach with increasing the national debt.
From Republicans, and they want me to do it. They say, "Oh, well, you're not afraid of the president. You go tell him his nominee can't make it." So I'm just tired of always being the whipping boy. I'm tired of the only one that has any guts to stand up and tell the president the truth. So on this, he's heard the rumblings, but these Republicans, if they're going to vote no, they need to man up and they need to say, we're going to vote no because of this reason. and they need to tell the president. But so far, what I'm hearing is rumbling and griping and want me to do their job for them. So they need to step up. They need to tell the president if they're going to vote no on it, then it's not worthwhile sending the nominee here.
Again, I think a valid point, but that's not where the discussion is happening. And the last example I brought up was John Fetterman, where he had advocated for reopening the government and burying the hatchet between the two sides. And I think at this point where the government has been shut down for pretty much going on 3 weeks to a month now, I think it's time to engage with that subject. But again, this is where the mainstream media and the people who are parroting the left-wing talking points are criticizing him for even suggesting that this be done in service of the American people. And again, I think that going back to the main topic of the video, I think it is emblematic of the fact that the person that is advocating for the well-being of the majority, the American people as a whole, by reopening the government, is being criticized for merely doing his job and suggesting something that would benefit more people than continuing this shutdown would benefit. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. I think this goes to show how compromised they are by advocating against the majority here, by criticizing him. And the same goes for Marjorie Taylor Greene and Rand Paul. And the other example, and the last example I want to use, is with Plattner, the Democratic Senate candidate running in Maine. And you are seeing these people in government completely trip over themselves trying to endorse his running as a politician, when we all saw all the criticisms that were leveled against Pete Hegseth for basically doing the same thing. And I think it's an incredible double standard, and it immediately exposes the hypocrisy of this kind of moral high ground that they pretend to have. They pretend like these tattoos or any symbol of support for any of these things is a bad thing, but if their side is doing it, then all is good in the world. Nothing to see here. And again, this is incredibly frustrating, as I don't think you can have a debate in good faith when your hypocrisy is so immediately exposed. You're not exactly talking from a place of principle. You're just saying the things that you can criticize because you know it's a way to attack someone, even though you don't really hold this opinion of yourself. And it's kind of like talking to someone you know and calling them out on lying, and they're trying to pretend that they don't know what a lie is. That's basically the same impression that I'm getting here from trying to follow these stories online. And again, this leads to a dishonest conversation, and at worst, it goes to subverting the conversation into something else entirely, and something entirely less productive. Overall, to reiterate the main point of this video, I hope to encourage people to at least form their own opinions, and even for people in government, I want them to keep taking a leap of faith and to stand out on this ledge and to go against mainstream opinions. Because I think that if we just continue to toe the line and cater to a majority opinion without voicing any concerns, I don't think that it is a healthy discussion. I think that it is better to have multiple options available and to evaluate based on the legitimacy and the validity of each option. And by only going with a majority opinion, I think that we are creating and putting ourselves in a box to where we just leave one option on the table rather than exploring multiple avenues to go about fixing these very complicated problems. But if you have enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing, and please take care and be safe.